Hi there, thanks for watching my videos. Here I am back again in my new shed with my new toy. This is a Worksharp knife and tool sharpener. I'd been meaning to buy this for a long time. It's $120 off of eBay from the seller Discount Trader, which is where I got mine. And I struggle getting things like this because I've become a bit of a knife person, and whenever I sort of have that amount of money, it's very hard to buy a maintenance tool when you could buy another nice flash knife. But we sold our house, had a little bit of cash, so I got a knife, the LT Wright Genesis, and I also got a sharpener. So here we are. What this is a system. It's either bench-based for knives or freehand for tools. It's a system of sanding belts, very thin ones, like you've got here. You can see this is the finest one you can get, the grey one, 6000 grit. You can't even feel the grit. It's very much more of a polishing strip, and it's aided by guides that come with the machine that slip over the belt. This being the kitchen knife one I've just slipped on. Okay, aided by the guides here, by putting the knife in here and then in here on each side, and then running the Worksharp. And this bit here is for your outdoor knives, so it's got a bit of a different angle, 50 degrees inclusive, so 25 on each side for outdoor knives, which need a bit of a stronger edge, and 40 degree inclusive for kitchen knives, which are slicers, so they can be thinner and aren't subjected to hard use. The cool thing about this is it puts a convex grind on your knives, which is probably one of the most high integrity grinds you can have for hard use or any use knives, really. Apart from very fine wood carving tasks, a convex will still get razor sharp. The only thing that probably beats it is a proper Scandi grind at wood carving. But at any rate, you can't go wrong with having a convex on pretty much any knife, unless it's a specific wood carving knife, like a bushcraft knife. Perhaps you might want to stick with your Waterstones for something like that. So, just some work that I've already done. I recommend when you get a Worksharp, you start with a knife that you're not too fussed about. So I grabbed out my worst knife, which is this Mueller, just a fairly generic small outdoors knife with like I think a 1/3 tang, just a junky knife. I've never been able to get this sharp, and needless to say, thank you Worksharp, it is now hair shaving sharp. This is like a 440A steel, so of course takes the edge quite well, or it's soft. It's just because I could only ever put standard V grinds on it, the edge would just go straight away, but because it's convex, it's actually got a fair bit more durability. So if you can get this sharp, you can get any knife sharp, I guarantee you. And if you can get this staying sharp, then it's definitely doing good results, which it is. So I'll just pop that back in its sheath, because this is actually a dangerous knife now, so you need to keep it in its sheath. Probably still will just be used for opening paint cans and prying wood chips off my axe, but there you go, still nice to have it sharp. So what I'll do today is I will do a couple of demos on sharpening some knives. So what I've got here are my old kitchen knives. Sort of a bit, choose a mid-size. This is just your standard kitchen utility knife. Blunt as all hell. Just couldn't cut butter with it. Really couldn't. Still feels semi-sharp to the touch, and that's what these full flat grind type knives will do. They'll always feel sharp because it's still a very narrow piece of metal there. But if you look at this edge up close, it would probably be zigzagging and doing all sorts of weird things. You just can't see it too well with your naked eye. So what we'll do, we'll run this through the Worksharp. We'll use the kitchen knife guide. Pop that over there. Slips on really easily. Just a bit more on the machine, I suppose. So once you've got your guide on, it just rests quite adequately on the bench. It's got these little feet here, so I'll set it back so the camera gets it. So if you look at that there, it sort of just sets on it, and the idea is you sort of stand over it like so, and run your knives through like so. What I will do is, because this is a rather blunt knife, I will actually switch to a different belt. So this is your 6000 honing belt, and this will be pretty much the one you use once all your knives are sharp. This will probably be the only one you actually need to use on a regular basis, because convex edges are durable and you won't really need to reset them. To reset an edge, you'll use this 200 grit, which is a little bit rough. You can actually feel the roughness to the touch. And to completely reprofile a knife, you'll use this, or to do an outdoor tool like a shovel or something, you use this 80 grit. But this really does take lots of material off, and you can see that. You can see even the orange one, when I first started on this mule, you can see this little little dip there, just above my finger. That's from just being a little bit too, lingering a bit too long, so you do need to keep a nice smooth stroke, but you'll see that once I get started. So let's fit this 200 grit belt. We won't need to reset the edge of such a thin kitchen knife. So, I'm sorry, I should be really be narrating what I'm doing. To fit the belt, so you just push this spring down and twist it to the side and it stays there, and then you just get slack. Then you just untwist it and it sort of catches the belt. You just squeeze it across, give it a couple of spins, make sure it's all lined up, and it is. And there we go. So what we'll do, we'll pop the kitchen knife guide over, like so. And all I'll do is I'll hold it. Sorry, I'm having all sorts of camera problems. So at any rate, I've run it through twice now on just that medium grit, the 200, and it's already, you can feel it's definitely, see, it wasn't doing that at all, there was no chance. It's still a very fluffy edge, so that's what we'll use the second honing portion for. So push that down and twist. It does get a little bit hot, so just be a bit mindful of that. Of course, the DVD that comes with the Worksharp tells you how to do all this as well, so you mustn't worry that you have to really take too many notes. I'm just doing it more to show you the finished result. Put on my stropping belt, put the lock over, the guide, let's strop it, shall we? So I do 10 on each side with the strop. Now we should see some pretty good result. Get this paper here and give it a little slice. There we are. So it's definitely, it's clearly completely restored that edge from a knife that we've had for 7 years and only been sharpened once on Waterstones. We've actually replaced these simply because we wanted to get some Victorinox knives, and these are starting to get rid of rust on them and just the standard stuff that happens after years of abuse in a dishwasher. These are Wilshire Stay Sharp brands, and I know Wilshire would use decent steel, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that it's probably good enough to restore really old, semi-good knives to completely new knives, basically. So that's the standard kitchen knife that's completely renewed the edge on. So very happy with that. Now I'll perhaps do an outdoors knife, and we'll see how that goes. So what I'll do, I think the outdoor knife I'll choose to sharpen will be the, where is it? Might do my Bear Grylls Ultimate Knife. I'll just pause the tape, go find it, and bring it back. Alrighty, here's the bastard. Now this is a 7CR17 MOV stainless blade. This does have serrations, and the Worksharp does do serrations. Well, it says it does, however, it doesn't do them the proper way, as in going into the actual scallop. What it does is it sharpens the back edge, so it's kind of a cheap way of sharpening serrations, and probably not good probably to the detriment of the actual serrations themselves. So if you did that too many times, it would just wear them away into light bumpiness. So we'll ignore that, and we'll just redo this edge here into a convex edge. Just a pre-test and some paper here. Still slightly sharp. It has a utility edge on it. I've been using it to do some garden stuff. So you can sort of cut with it. We'll see if the Worksharp can put much improvement on that one. Just change this belt over. The fabric belt's quite floppy and loose, as you can probably see, and this one is wearing thin a little bit. But that's probably my fault, because I think I was putting the knives in the wrong way when I was using it to the axes the wrong way when I was using it to grind. So at any rate, digress there. Let's put the red belt back on. Do a slight reprofile, because the Bear Grylls knife has a just a standard traditional V-shaped bevel, and because we're putting a Scandi bevel on it, we need to use a little bit more oomph on our belts to do that initial bit of work. So we'll set that up again, and we'll put the outdoor knife guide on, which goes on the back side. And you see these guides sort of, they fit onto this, there's a screw there, and they sort of just push down onto that. So it's quite a good design. It just sits there quite effortlessly. So what we've got here, we've got a 25-degree edge on either side, which I think is quite similar to what would already exist on this knife. So just be mindful not to take those serrations out too much, and we'll do 5 strokes on each side. The one critique I do have is that the tip seems to sort of go loose into the, not that it's really making much of a difference, but the tip definitely feels like it's going into free space as you pull it through that last little bit. The guide portion only really lasts sort of half the belts, you know, the guide portion is only this black part here, and then it's kind of in free space when it gets under here. So just for your tips, you just need to sort of stiffen your wrists a bit and just try your best. So, yeah, I think that's already put a bit more of an edge on it. Let's give it a bit of a test. Old BG. So, maybe not. Probably needs a strop. It is a much thicker knife, so it's might even need a couple more goes through. Yeah, when you get the angles right, it does that sort of fluffy edge. I might do a little bit more of this, to be honest. I think that might be the call for the day. Out again. I'm not sure if it's just giving me a buffer overflow message, so not quite sure what to make of that, but I don't think you're missing too much. It's probably just me running the knife through the sharpener. So just make sure it's on while I do the results. So it's another little bit of sharpening there. Definitely helped a little bit again. Yeah. So it's definitely a bit less effort to push it through that angled paper. Still a little bit of work to go. I think I'll do a few more of these strokes. This is a very old knife. Don't think I've ever sharpened this, so, and it has been digging in the dirt and cutting through weed plastic and things. So I'll do a few more of these, and then I'll give it a nice strop. Righto, that's got to be enough. Well, the manual says for knives that are quite blunt, you do, I think it's 5, 5, 5, then 5 on this belt, and then you just do your stropping. You can pretty much just go nuts on it. It's such a mild belt that if you had the patience for it, you could probably do a fair bit more than I do. But then again, it is a 6,000 grind, so you know eventually there'll be a point where it only does, you know, where it reaches its limits. So and then you might be better off going to a leather strop or something like that if you're still fussed. But I think 6,000 is probably basically what a leather strop with a compound would be grit wise anyway. So how much good it'd do, I don't know. Let's have a look. Put a strop on it now. Righto. It does really polish that edge up. You can see it in the light. I won't bother trying to catch it on the camera, but when you hold this up to it, you can sort of see a glint there. It really does shine that edge up. So, and I think a shiny edge is generally a fairly sharp edge. So have a look and see how we feel. Yeah. See, it's all in the strop. Clearly, just that's very sharp now. That's sharper than this knife's ever been. So the 200 obviously still leaves a that's a bit of a wet paper, sorry, sweaty in here. The 200 obviously leaves a little bit of a raggy edge on there still, so yeah, it's that strop is just definitely what does it. Yeah. So the Bear Grylls Ultimate Knife, razor sharp, never has been. One thing you do notice is as you get to the thicker blades with the variant grind, so this one's flat and then saber ground, if the Worksharp's guiding on the you want to try and get the Worksharp to guide on the angle that's closest to the blade. If you try and level up this flatter side, it'll put a much steeper convex. Whereas if you get it on this, there's a several degrees difference from here to here. If you can run this part up against the guide, then your convex grind will be a bit shallower and therefore a bit sharper, I think. Probably less durable, but a bit sharper, and that's how I prefer my knives. Because this is such an easy machine to use, I don't mind using it. So that's knives, and as you can see, two pretty good results. The other function of the Worksharp, well, there's a couple more functions, but the other function I'll use most likely is you pull this lever here, and then you can swivel this bad boy forward. And then what you have is basically a freehand grinder. So I'll just change the camera angle and show you how I use this freehand grinder to buff or reprofile an axe. So what I've done here is I've got my firefighter's hatchet. Just that's actually, I think I'm going to gift this to someone, but this is just an example of a very broad-edged, more of a tool. This isn't your Grandsfors axe, this is, which you could do, I'd probably actually use the knife for a very thin-nosed Grandsfors, but you see this is a very beefy edge there, going into a fairly, there's only so much you can do with an edge like this. This is more of a smashing and breaching tool. You're not really going to want to, this is never going to shave the hairs off your arms, unless you put a lot of work onto this reprofiling. However, it doesn't mean you can't get it the best as you possibly can. I've already done a bit of work on it. You can probably see it's quite a nice light edge, and this is the sort of edge you get with this Worksharp when you use that, especially on carbon steels like this, 5160 and such. This would be sort of a 1070 or something. They really do polish up nicely when you use that orange belt on them. I did reprofile this a bit with the green one, which is the 80 grit. And what I'm going to do just to demonstrate is just put the Worksharp on it as just as a demonstration of how you do it. So just stand by, I'll raise my try up a little bit. So there we have it. So you'll see the axe there, and what I'll do is I'll come in with the Worksharp. Just swing that around so I can see what I'm doing. You'll see that you can see what I'm doing. So you just pretty much turn it on, and with a free hand you just work up and down the blade. And you can sort of see the belt bends in a little bit there, which is definitely putting that convex grind as it wipes the material in a downward fashion. Then of course flipping it over and wiping it down the other way is going to result in an edge. And as I said, this is a very broad edge, more akin to something like a shovel, but it'll definitely do the job and get a very serviceable working edge on tools such as this. Or there's nothing greater than having a really nicely edged digging shovel as well. Really does the trick too. There's probably still a bit of work I need to do to get the really good practice. I'm not willing to break out my expensive axes and do anything other than buff them just yet, because I'd hate to do some damage, because it'd take me ages to write it again. So I'll probably watch a few videos myself of people sharpening axes with a Worksharp, but I can definitely say as a knife sharpener, to spend $120 on something like this, which will keep your knives sharp for a long time. Well, some people buy a new knife block every year for $100, and let alone that's just for kitchen knives. And of course, as you saw, the survival knives become, it's just as serviceable on them. And if those are the knives you use more often, then I just can't see why you wouldn't pick up a Worksharp. Sure, you can get stones, but to get quality stones, you need to spend a lot more than that. The only thing, as I said, your bushcrafters would still want to have the water stones, because you can get those flat on flat action with the moors and such. I'll just grab a mauler. So you see here with a mauler, because this grind has that this deep scandy here, you could put a convex on the edge, but then it would sort of become just more of a working knife rather than a wood carving knife, which is what I use my maulers for. I carry when I'm out. I'll do a video on my blade system actually. When I'm out, I'm carrying I carry my woodworking knife in my background, which lately is my LT Wright Genesis. Good wood sort of carving knife, bushcraft knife, and then I carry again like a proper survival knife, which I'm happy to have a convex edge because you can use it to split wood. If you use this grind to split wood too much, you can dull it and chip it and roll it and things, because although it's probably the sharpest grind I think you can get, it's probably the most fragile at the tip because it doesn't have a secondary bevel. This mauler doesn't. I think they might come with a small secondary edge, but I used my Waterstones for a long time and put them as 0 degree scandies, which is what my LT Wright has as well. So running this through a Worksharp would actually, it wouldn't ruin the knife, but it would change its purpose, because a woodcrafting knife, in my opinion, is best being a scandy grind, because it really digs in, pushes the wood just in one straight line up the grind here, whereas a convex, because it is a slightly rounded type thing, the wood has to curl around it. These are all probably very barely noticeable things, but I figure if you've got the tools and you've got various tools for various jobs, you may as well keep them in their purposes rather than homogenizing everything to be the same, which is what you do risk doing if this is your only sharpening system. So by all means, keep your Waterstones and use them for your chisels and for your convex stuff. But for every other utility knife that you use for general purpose, I think a Worksharp, investing in one of these is it just makes sense. There is a Ken Onion version, which I'd love to see what the benefits are of. Maybe has slightly higher grade belts or something like that, but there's about $300 more in this. This is $120. The Ken Onion ones are going for about 400 Australian dollars. So, and I assume in the US that would be, this is probably $80, and Ken Onion is probably 200 and something. So I'd love to see what the difference is. I might watch a few videos on it myself. But yeah, with the added benefit of sharpening your gardening tools, I think it's just a great idea to pick one up. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you later.